All right.
Good afternoon.
How you doing, Craig?
Oh, well,
Good. How are you guys?
Doing well.
we'll wait a couple more minutes.
I know Patrick was not able to make it. He emailed, so he'll be marked as excused.
Okay.
And all we would then have is Dan Teeters.
Is Kasha on?
Yep.
Oh, hi, Kasha. I see we got Alder Johnson.
I assume, Dave, you need one more for quorum.
I think 4 is good enough.
No, we have a one. Is Patrick gonna be on? Do you know, Dave?
Patrick is an excused absence, not unavailable, out of town.
Okay. Oh, I mean Dan. I was gonna ask you about Dan. Is Dan on?
I haven't heard anything from him.
Okay. You ready to start, Dave?
All good.
Okay, I'll call the special meeting of August 29th of the Traffic, Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission to order. The roll call, Dan Thino here. Kasha,
Here.
Alder Stevens,
Here.
Dan Teeters. Not here. Lieutenant Skobiak,
Here.
Dan Sorrell is excused. Okay. Approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a
I'll
second?
Second.
Moved in second, and all in favor saying, signify by saying aye.
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 Nay, the ayes have it. Approval of the minutes of the last meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Actually, correction, Chair, there is no minutes to approve until the next meeting,
Okay,
per your request.
okay. Regular business. Request by Alderman Johnson to establish no parking day of Packer games on Tony Canadeo Run. Let me call upon the Honorable Alder Johnson. Brian, take it.
Yeah, this was a request that came to me from Kevin Burkle, who owns Burkle's one block over. I took some time after an initial conversation with Dave Hansen. I took some time to talk to businesses in that area, and I can tell you that this is a concern that is shared by everyone in that area. So even though it was Mr. Burkle that brought it forward, I think everybody kind of shares in the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish here. And obviously, we don't have sidewalks in that corridor. We're missing lighting right now. And so we have a season that's about to start. That safety concern, I think, is shared by many. And, you know, some photos and videos were shared with me that kind of really demonstrates, I guess, why it gets to be a little bit sketchy in that area when you have pedestrians trying to share the street with cars that are actively moving through there. So we're just looking to get no parking on game day. I believe, you know, your protocol, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is sort of a 90-day trial period. We'll assess at the end of that trial period, but it would be nice to get that 90-day trial period enforced before the season begins.
I have a question.
We did share the videos that you sent, Alder, with the members of the commission.
Thank
Dave,
you.
do you have any comments?
Yeah, I probably should give a little bit of, I guess, some contextual information around this area. Probably a good idea to share my screen and show you a map that shows the existing no parking day of Packers home game zones in the Legends District. So give me a second, I'll share. There we go. So hopefully you can see my screen, which is probably just everyone else's screen, but give me a second, I'll bring up the map. Okay, can everyone see that?
No.
Okay, maybe I'm sharing the wrong screen. Share. Okay, so used to Microsoft Teams. Okay. All right.
Okay, there it is.
Okay, so you'll see two different types of line styles. One's going to be a solid, one's going to be a dash. The solid would be no parking zones that are there all the time. So as you can tell, I'll work from left to right or west to east. So you'll see a solid line on the south side of Brett Favre Pass. This is actually in the village of Ashwaubenon. And then over in Reggie will have segments on both the west and the east sides for permanent no parking. The rest of what you see in dash lines, that's going to be all no parking during Packers game zones. So they're only in effect, obviously, during those on game days. So every other time of the year, it's basically available for people to park in. I'll just again kind of work from west to east. You'll see the north side of Brett Favre Pass in the village of Ashwaubenon has that posted. Both sides of Brett Favre Pass in the north-south segment of it. Mini Canadale Run, which is what we're really talking about mostly today here. You see it's both sides of the street up until you get to, I don't know, probably just a couple hundred feet west of Reggie White Way. On the south side, then it just becomes pretty much open parking. But you can see the entire north side of Tony Canadale Run is no parking day of Packers game. Moving on to Reggie White Way, all the west side of it. And with Bart Star Drive, there are no restrictions. So I guess one of the things you had mentioned was that video and that photo that was sent. So the video, just so people know, is actually going to be of the segment of Tony Canadale between Reggie White and Bart Star. And what it shows is some pedestrians walking in the street intermingled with the parked cars, showing that that there definitely is this intermixing of vehicle traffic and pedestrians. From what we've observed in the past, I think this has been kind of an item that's been on the table. I think the discussions probably started about 5 years ago, because I had Tom Sherman's shoot some video at the time when this first started coming up. This is right around the time when we started scoping out the project for the sidewalks in the Legends District and the street lighting. So all of that kind of came up at the same time, and we confirmed even back then that we had the same thing. That video was pretty much shot from the hotel up in number floors, and you could see a good part of Tony Canadale Run during it looked to be kind of into the night. It started out somewhat daylight and then went into the night. So it's my presumption it must have been the exodus or the ending of the game and people leaving. So that was part of it. The other thing I wanted to note was I know there was a photo that was shared, I believe by Mr. Fabry. And the one thing that I noticed that photo, I actually just bring it up instead of just describing it. Let's see here. Here we go. Oh, this is the video. So you can see that's looking towards Lambeau. Now this is turning eastbound from Reggie White. Now we're on Tony Canadale. So you can see there's people on the north side and south side. So this is the side where you still got parking. So you can see there's people walking. So that's an accurate representation, I think, of what goes on there. And then one more was that photo that was shared. The only thing that I want to note on this one is this must not have been a Packers game, because there's parking on both sides of the street here. And you can see it even goes past, it goes all the way down to like stadium view, which is Brett Favre Pass. So this one's really not an indication of a Packers game. team. So I don't know what this was. Could have been an event at the rest center or something, but it definitely wasn't a Packers. So that's the map. I guess the other thing I'll just mention here, because I know it's something that Mr. Burkle has been, I know he's questioned and had some phone calls here to staff, more to our project development section. But I know that he's had some discussions with my traffic technician, Tom Sherman's as well, relative to an upcoming project that some of you may know about, and that is the sidewalks and the street lighting project. So as many of you know, the electrical in the Legends District was prepped for this project probably a year and a half ago or so, and all the electrical was buried. So what ended up happening is any of the were actually removed as part of that project. That kind of happened just because the intention was that that project was supposed to be let immediately after. That did not happen. It's my understanding that the TID, I don't believe the TID had enough money. And I think they had additional funds in order to complete that project. But the good news is that I've just talked with project development. It sounds like this project actually is going to be let next Tuesday on the 6th September. Now there's going to be 2 phases to that construction. As I said, there's a street lighting component and there's a sidewalk component. But as part of that street lighting component, those street lights are going to be built on what we call bump outs. So many of you may be familiar with the bump out concept. This is something that was approved as part of the Legends District plan that was adopted many years ago, which included some conditions on what the lighting is going to look like. So there's going to be what they call an industrial chic decorative lighting that's going to be put in, that was adopted by council. So again, 2-phase project. Now the street lighting part is actually going to be this phase 1 that's going to be going in, and it looks to me like the completion for all of that is supposed to be December 2nd. And then all the rest of the work would be June 16th of next year. That would be then the completion of the sidewalks. I'll share one more diagram with you just so everyone has an idea on what's going on. So I'm sharing on the screen right now. You'll see these are the areas where sidewalk is going to be installed. So as you can tell, this part on Brett Favre Pass, now north is to the right. As you can see, this is all Ashwaubenon. You can see Village Ashwaubenon corporate limit is actually right here where I'm kind of noting with my cursor. It's my understanding that the Village of Ashwaubenon actually went out to bid on actually installing sidewalks. The whole idea was to have a coordinated effort to have sidewalk installed on the north side of Brett Favre Pass in the village to connect up with Holmgren Way. One, it was extremely high and they rejected it. So I don't know actually what the status is at the village. My presumption is that they're just going to rebid it sometime, but I can't confirm or deny that. All I know is that they rejected the bid because it was too high. I believe they only had one bidder on it as well. But that's something that's actually pretty typical right now in the construction industry. I mean, our city of Green Bay, even on our sidewalk contract, we noticed that prices were significantly higher for this year's program. And there's actually some projects we're actually waiting on just because we can't fund it because the numbers are too high. Regardless, this project is moving forward. So anyway, you can see from the city of Green Bay corporate limit, we're going to have sidewalk on the north side of Brett Favre Pass. Brett Favre Pass does have a north-south component here as well. So you'll see it on the east side. This is going to be right next to that Legacy Hotel. Going around the corner, then this is going to be Tony Canadeo here. So you can see both sides, north and south, is going to have sidewalk. Here's that bump out component I was talking about. So the streetlights are actually going to be built within those bump outs. You may ask, why are the streetlights being put there? To put it bluntly, there's a lot of utility conflicts that exist within this area, namely sanitary sewer and water. And I know that there was a lot of conflict with those facilities. And long story short, we really had no other place to put them. But to coexist within those bump outs. Now, the bump outs were something, again, that was something as part of that Legends district, so kind of worked, I guess you'd say it was kind of a lucky coincidence that we got that, but that's where their new home will be. Here's the now up. So this is Tony Canadale Run. You can see there's a series of these bump outs, street lighting. Continuing further, now here's the intersection Reggie White Way. Sidewalk's going to be extended up to the northwest corner of Reggie White Way. And on the south side here, all the way up to this first bump out that's going to be constructed here. So that's where the sidewalk's going to end. So when it comes down to parking restrictions, ultimately when these are put in, you're going to see a request from me coming in that we're going to restrict parking permanently. This isn't going to be just a game day thing. We're going to restrict parking, obviously, in these areas of the bump outs. Why? Because there's just not enough room. You can see from the center line to the bump out here, that's pretty much just going to be one travel lane that's going to be available. So we'd be restricting parking in the entirety of these bump outs. But the good part is that does kind of preserve some of that parking area there. And like I said, it's kind of similar to the Broadway district where they have bump outs, and it kind of gives that level of protection for that. But the other thing too, I think that really needs to be talked about, that gets as germane to this discussion, is that once these are there, if those pedestrians are in the street, guess what? They're going to even be closer to the drive lane. So I think timing is actually pretty good right now on getting this zone in. So bottom line, at least from my perspective, I would be in support of the item that's here. And I would say you want to establish it on all the roads that are going to have the bump out. So in this case, we have Tony Canadale. I'd do it in its entirety. So as I showed on that map, it's only partially. So what we would do is just take it from where it currently terminates on the south side, extend that all the way down to Bart Starr Drive. I would do Reggie White Way as well. And I believe we have some on Bart Starr, maybe not. No, it looks like all those were all behind curbs. So at this point in time, I would recommend the no parking day of Packers home game zone to go in, fill up the rest of Tony Canadale. And then I would also complete any of the areas that we need to on Reggie White.
So Dave,
Is
when
there
are these Dave, when is the sidewalks going in these bump outs?
Bump outs are to be completed by December 2nd. I'm sure some of you are thinking, well, doesn't that conflict with the Packers schedule? Yes, it does. We do have a provision in the contract. I did review that, and it looks to me like we just have a general provision within the city that on Packer game day, that all these contracts that may be in what we call the stadium district, not just necessarily the Legends district. No, Legends district is a component of it, but this would be all the areas, say like north of Lombardi Avenue, into the neighborhoods where basically where you see a lot of the game day parking, people parking on lawns and everything. We have a condition that's basically says, you got to clear up your construction activities, basically free up as much as you can. We understand that there'll be some conflicts that are going to be unavoidable, but the contractors basically they just try buttoning up these construction areas as much as possible. So that's why I was saying, I think the timing is good right now. I think if we just get this in, it's going to get all the people off of Tony Canadale Run, Reggie White in its entirety anyway. Those construction areas, are pretty much just going to be those bump outs. There really won't be any sidewalk construction until spring.
How fast can you get these signs up?
Well, I'd have to call in for utility locates on whatever areas we have for gap. So, I can get the sign work order in pretty much immediately. I might even be able to get it in today. But realistically, the way the process always works is my staff has to call in for utility locates. Those have to clear. Then they put the signs in, and in that time when we wait for the utility locates to clear, our staff, our sign shop crew is going to be fabricating those signs. There's really not that many to fabricate. We've got all the posts, and we keep an inventory at the V-locks that need to go in. So I'm not too concerned. I mean, I think you see the Packers schedule here. It looks like next game is the 18th of September. So I mean, they should be in well before that.
Okay, good. Are there any questions
I have another question.
of Dave? Any questions?
I do.
Is there a motion to
Chair?
include all of Canandaigua Drive and Reggie White Way?
Chair, I have a question before we do that.
Okay,
So maybe Alder
Stevens?
Johnson might be able to answer. So these no parking zones that are currently there during Packer games, I'm assuming vehicles are still parking there?
No,
Alder Johnson?
Two suggestions, I guess. One, I would recommend that you open the floor because Mr. Burkle is here and I think he can answer a lot of those questions for you. Alder Stevens, because he's there every day and sees it. Perhaps I would just offer up that suggestion. And then I just had a question for Dave. Does this require, like this the 90-day temporary thing, does that have to go through council for approval or does that rest with this body?
rest with this body.
Okay, thanks.
is there a motion to open the
Yeah,
floor?
when I go over there, I pick people up because they need to be picked up and there's no parking zones. There's tons of cars there. So I just want clarification. So I make a motion to open the floor.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay, the
Aye.
ayes have it. Okay, can we have our guest say a few words?
You're muted.
Am I unmuted?
You're good.
Hear you.
There
Okay.
you go.
Yep. No, that all, I mean, that's basically, he's right. They don't pay attention to the no parking signs at all. Last game we had, actually, they came by and ticketed a bunch of cars because people just aren't paying attention to it. And the video or the picture you saw on both sides of the street, that was the weekend of the soccer game. Nobody paid attention to anything because it says Packers, no parking on Packer game days. So they figured it was a soccer game. They'll just park everywhere.
Oh, okay.
That's what it was. It was the soccer game. But anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, it'll be a big help when they get the street lighting in. I was telling Dave, me and my wife were coming down here on Saturday night for a class reunion, and there was people walking right down the middle of Tony Canadale Run, and we turned, off by, is it Brett Favre or whatever, the one down by Tundra, Reggie White,
Bart Star.
Bart Star. Well, we turned off of Bart Star onto Tony Canadale Run, and there was 4 people walking down the middle of the road, and I damn near picked them off. And I mean, it wasn't that we were going fast. It was just when you make the turn, you can't see anybody there. And that's been a major issue of mine for the last 2 years with no street lighting down here. And then Dave, when you're talking about that piece down by Stadium View, where the new hotel's going up,
Correct. Yeah.
can that be a permanently no parking area?
I mean, anything's possible. I mean, I think at this point in time, I think it might be best to maybe kind of see what happens with this legacy hotel. I just remember from some of the discussions that we had during the development and the site plan approval, that they were requests, but that they were going to make them around the time that, things start wrapping up with their construction. So I think some of these things may be coming in the future when it comes down to, possibly doing some restriction. I know that some of the conversation, I think maybe Kevin, where you're going with this is, I know that, Tom and I have talked quite a bit about this, and I know Tom has talked to you about this a number of times, that it's like the parking around the corner for from Brett Favre to Tony Canadale, like people are parking on that inside corner. It kind of creates maybe a little bit of a blind spot. I can see that. Unfortunately, and I don't want to sound like I'm mincing words here, but the request right now is really just for looking at Packers game day traffic that can be taken up at a separate time.
That's right.
And again, like I said, I want to start entertaining those discussions with the Legacy Hotel, because I know that they were looking at possibly some restrictions as well, and those actually may coincide with actually what you're talking about. So I kind of want to just get everyone on the same page and then just go ahead and just do one change in the ordinance, so we're not sitting there having to go through legal all changed.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as we get Tony Canadale taken care of and whatever else you're gonna do. And I mean, I don't know what we have to put there for signage to make it very clear to people. There's no parking here. You know, I'll tell people to get out in the car right in front of me on game days. I say that you're gonna get ticketed. We don't care.
Yeah, well, you know, yeah, I'll tell you what, Kevin, you bring up a really good point, because at the end of the day, some of these people that are gonna be looking at parking, they're gonna go to one of these, anyone that's got a house that's in proximity of the stadium district, and they'll go there and whatever, 20, 30 bucks, whatever they're gonna pay for parking. I don't know what the going rate is anymore, but I mean, and then they could just go park in a no parking zone. Well, what if that ticket for a no parking zone is less than someone's charging for parking? Well, of course you're gonna park in the street, you know? So that's what you're getting at. So it's like, you know, maybe this is time that we start revisiting. And again, this isn't really something that the traffic commission would take care of. It would have to go through improvement service, because improvement service committee deals with anything parking division related, like the parking rates. But maybe this is an alternate discussion that talks about, you know, maybe upping the fees and fines for people that park there, because unless you've got, you know, that price, in my opinion, again, I'm just giving my professional opinion as traffic engineer, you're going to continue to have problems in no parking zones unless the fine is higher than what people are charging for lawn parking.
Yep.
I have a
Anything
question.
else, Mr.
Yeah,
Burkle?
I
Uh,
don't,
Move on
but
here.
I do have a question, so. Maybe we should keep the floor open. He might have a suggestion too. So regarding this no parking on Packer game day, can we also make this a tow-away zone? If
Towaways,
they are parking there, that their vehicle will be ticketed and towed?
that would be a different zone. Towaway zones are consist of what we call no stopping or standing zones. So that might be one of those things where you go, be careful what you ask for too, because I'm sure during Packer game day, there's a lot of people, I know this firsthand because I'm one of them, is that if I do attend a game, someone's usually driving me close by and they're just dropping me off. So a no stopping or standing zone, you can't even load and unload passengers. I mean, there's no you can't have your vehicle exist in those areas for any reason. You probably know about some of these, like when we deal with school issues in some of those areas where we just don't want parents loading and unloading, then we put in no stopping or standing zones. Downtown, you see some of them, you know, and those are kind of like the fire lane / towaway areas. That's what you would have to establish out there. So I'm not really sure if that's what you want. Maybe it is. I mean, you know, I'm just saying that if you do that, you're going to also take away the ability to load and unload people.
Okay, my other question then would be, I don't know if you would know it or maybe Lieutenant, when these vehicles get ticketed, is the police department issuing those tickets or is the parking division?
My guess would be the parking division. Usually on a Packer game day, we're so tied up with the number of officers working the game. The officers left working the road are fewer and far between. So my guess would be parking division is the one issuing the tickets. We can both issue the tickets, but I think the biggest thing is like Dave said, the cost of the ticket has to increase to dissuade people from violating the no parking.
Okay, so my other question, can we possibly put a letter board out there for the next couple of home games warning people this is no parking? And can we put safety cones out there and kind of make it a pedestrian path along the side of that street?
And maybe DPW can put out the no parking by police order signs, if that will do anything different.
that'll
And
help.
maybe put some cones out there and make it more of a pedestrian walkway?
Yeah.
Can we try something like that?
Well, I'm hearing two.
I'm just
different
throwing
things.
ideas out there because, you know, I've been
Oh,
down
we're
that
trying to
street many times and there's always traffic, so.
Right. I'm hearing two different things, the parking, the temporary signs. But let me just address that one first. I'm not a big fan of putting conflicting signs up because you're gonna, basically what people are gonna see, they're gonna see temporary no parking, which actually it's not temporary no parking, it's just the zone that's always in. I'm not a big fan of sending conflicting messages to people. I get it, you're
Right.
trying to improve compliance, but to me, I would rather just, bring this to the attention of our parking superintendent. I mean, any changes in zones anyway, I always send him all that information anyway. So I can always have a discussion with them and say, hey, you guys mind doing some additional enforcement here? And number two, we do have the ability to flag signs, I'm sure you've seen it just where you get the double flags on them. And it would just be that additional area is really what I would do, just because it's something that's new. So that's something that we can do. Now, when it comes down to the cones and creating, kind of a faux sidewalk or whatever like that, again, remember, this project's gonna be starting, so this is gonna be, I'll be honest with you.
Well,
I mean, I think,
the cones, I feel would just be a temporary thing until we get further
right,
down the line.
right. Now, at the end of the day, our sign shop, I know, is taxed, just like the police department, those guys are up to here when it comes down to stuff that they're doing. Our parking people, we've got what, maybe 4 guys, 2 to 4 guys, I'd have to double check, that are actually doing game day traffic control. They've got a lot of work to do. Adding and installing all of these, again, is just gonna add to that workload that they have. I don't know, I'm more of a proponent of enforcement, just start ticketing them heavy. And people seem to change their behavior once they get hit in the wallet. And at the end of the day, even if some of these people say, well, that's the risk I'm willing to take, then I think we really need to seriously consider, as a city, what are we doing when it comes down to parking zone or the game day, no parking tickets? It's just like we have construction zone fines double. It's like, why wouldn't we have something like that for this? I think it's that important. I think we've demonstrated with videos and testimony here that we got people walking in the street. There's no question about it. That's almost, to me, almost worse than some of the construction, at least people in construction zones have some of that stuff, and they're protected behind drums and barrels and barricades and this and that, and now we've got this. And I know what you're saying. We could put out those cones and everything like that. I don't know. I mean, it's something I can ask our people. I can't make any commitments at this meeting, but and again, I do have to see if I've got enough material to do it. I mean, what you're asking for could consist of a couple hundred cones. So I mean, do I even have that? I don't even know. So I'd have to check into it.
Okay.
I would
Is there
think if you-
any more comments
Right,
from,
it's a suggestion, but I think Kasha.
That's okay. I wouldn't add cones just to like have sidewalks next year, but I do think if we add those different sections for the no parking on game day, and if you have some of those flags to bring attention to it, I feel like that would get us through this season before all the real upgrades are done.
I agree. Any further comments or questions for Mr. Burkle? If not, let's go back into regular session. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to close the floor.
I'll second.
Been moved, and there's a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay, Mr. Burkle and Mr. Johnson, thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. Is there a motion to approve of this request as amended or as suggested as amended by the traffic engineer to include Canada Drive and Reggie White?
I'll make a motion.
It's been
I will
moved.
second that motion.
And there is a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All in favor of not approving, say aye. The ayes have it. Okay, is there anything else to come before the commission? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, please.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay, the ayes
Aye.
have it. thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I think it's good that we are attacking a safety issue in the community, and I appreciate your time this afternoon.
And
Have a good day.
Chair,
Take care.
I'd also like to real quickly thank everybody. I know this was done on very short notice. We wanted to get this in before the Packer season, so I appreciate your accommodation on that as well.
Okay,
Thank you. Alder Johnson.
Thank you,
have a moment?
everyone.
Can you call me?
Will do.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
bye-bye.